There is no one else in creation like you. There's nobody like you. And what you've come to do and what you have to offer is like no other.
Hello, everybody. My uncommon community. Welcome to Functional Training Zone's Career Awareness Podcast, The Uncommon Connector. I'm your host, Andrea Jane, and here is where we connect the career dream to the work reality by having honest conversations with industry professionals so you don't waste time, talent, or tuition. And today, we've got Mr. Changa Bell. I'm telling you, his list of accomplishments are long. He's been featured in Men's Health, Good Morning America. You've been on Teen Vogue. You've been in the Huffington Post. You know, you've gotten some really good accolades. And the reason why is because you're all about health and well-being. You're a yogi. You're a homesteader. You're a social impact champion. You got a lot of things going on. So I'm excited to talk with you today. Thank you for coming on the show.
Andrea, thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity, so I appreciate the platform.
Awesome. So let's just dig in. I mean, I'd like to know, what is it about, the work you do? Can you tell us a little bit about it? There's so many different areas. So if you could capsulize it, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I think you and I were talking a bit off record a moment ago. I am really about self-sovereignty, or at least what I call self-sovereignty. And the way that I achieve that is just through being as independent as possible. Not that I don't appreciate the global community or being a part of a community, but I want to be as self-sufficient as possible. So that's why I practice entrepreneurship, so that I can create a good work and life balance. I hate that term, because if work is getting in the way of life, then we're not living right, correct? We're living to work and instead of just working, even working to live. There should be life, and then you work to support your life. That's the way I look at it. So my work is centered around that. So I'm just, recently I found out I was Balanta, and on my matriarchal side, and the Balanta people are all about social entrepreneurship and equity. So I was like, aha, so genetically I'm sort of coded to be about social impact work. So that's how I started the Black Male Yoga Initiative. I didn't feel comfortable in that space. And so I created the space not only for me to be comfortable in, but for other Black and just BIPOC people. I have Sunlight and Yoga. That was a calling that came to me about 10 years ago, just to do wellness work. And then lastly, I'm a Georgetown University certified health coach, which sort of lends into, the other two things, just in terms of branching out to support humans in everyday life. I think that about encapsulates what I do.
That's amazing. So, here's what I found out, that it wasn't always this way.
Yeah. You mean for me?
No, it was not.
Right.
So I think you were in media for a while and marketing. So you were doing that corporate American shuffle.
Well, still entrepreneurship. I was a freelancer. So I worked in the film industry for over 22 years. I did Madison Avenue, New York, lots of McDonald's commercials, Nike commercials, you name it. Met a lot of great people. Went to Hollywood for a while, worked on films. And, I got as far as producing and directing. I have a director's reel out there somewhere. I don't really... It's not that I turned my back on the industry. It's just the industry, people are very spiritually thirsty. I think there are personality types that are drawn there for sure, but I wasn't as spiritually thirsty as that, just that area. I was already a popular guy in high school. I didn't want to carry that into my adulthood. I was a basketball player, outgoing personality, but it's like doing that in the 30s and still trying to be get attention and backstabbing. It just wasn't the place for me, so I removed myself. There was no reason to sacrifice my soul for that.
Exactly. I feel that all the way around. And,
Yeah.
you know, you mentioned, or at least I noticed a video about how you went through a health scare and it kind of directed you into this line of work. Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. And let me say real quick too, because I did have some great friends and some great people I met in the industry that I'm still in touch with. They just have thicker skin than I do. So yeah, just, you know, the whole health scare thing, I understand why contextually it gives some significance to my narrative. But I do, you know, like someone, like someone that gets a record expunged, but every time they want to say, so, oh my God, you used to be a thief and a murderer. How did you, you know, I don't like to necessarily revisit that trauma. I will say, you know, because of course not everyone knows me. It is important to my story. I just had a significant health issue centered around my heart. And because I was freelance, I didn't have health insurance. In short, the hospital was like, you don't have insurance, you got to get out of here. So, you know, having a real heartfelt, no pun intended, moment with God, because my heart rate was significantly slow and used to stop in the middle of beating. I just said a prayer that I would change my life if I was granted grace to wake up the next morning. And I did. And so there was a long path to here, but that's essentially what got me right. Just like, you know, the Ebenezer Scrooge, I guess, you know, or Miracle on 34th Street. I got a chance to redo, and I just wanted to do it better.
Yeah, and you have. I mean, not only just for yourself, you've impacted so many people. That's what
I'd like to. Yeah, I'd like to think so. I mean, we never really know, right? I was an educator for a while, and it was one of the things that used to drive me nuts. Is that, you know, I have the gift of claircognizance, so that means I know something without knowing why I know it. And so where that helped as an educator is that, you know, I could look at my students, ninth graders, and see, for me, I only chose to see the positivity in them, but I could also see obviously the shadow path too. So it was hard because you want to speak life into folks, and, you know, I'd get an intuition about where they were going. So some made it, some didn't, and that was a less gratifying part, and still remains as a healer, teacher, that you plant the seed, but sometimes you don't get to see the harvest. And the harvest is 10 years down the road, 13 years down the road. But it is extremely gratifying when people are like, man, you helped me. You showed me, you shined the light on the path. And that's really the role of any teacher, is to just illuminate part of the path. It's not to create the path. It's not to walk the path for someone. It's just to shine the light on it so they can see a little better. And so that feels good, and it feels right for me.
Do you feel like you always knew what you wanted to do? Or was there a point in school where you were like, oh no, this is not my path at all?
Oh man, you know, I appreciate my schools. I went to private school, Catholic school, definitely loved the liberal arts college after the HBCU. It was a long educational journey, but I always wanted to be out in experiential learning. I mean, I literally was that kid. It was always daydreaming out the window. But because I was pretty intelligent, you know, I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I'm probably in that top 10%, as I've become recently aware. In my opinion, I think it's some kind of spectrum. You know, I'm on the spectrum. I'm an HSP. I found out recently, a highly sensitive person. Made all the sense in the world. They haven't categorized that on the spectrum yet, but I'm sure they will in the future. So I did, I liked school, but I didn't like being confined. I think outdoors, if we could have had classes outdoors, I loved that when I went to American University. Often our professors, it was a warm day, they said, let's go have class by the tree. I felt like we were doing it the way Jesus or Socrates or any indigenous people, you know, Credo Mutawa in South Africa, any of these Zulu leaders probably did it. Just get outside, sit in a circle, get around a tree, and exchange knowledge. That would have been a better way for me, and that's what led to me homeschooling my kids for 14 years.
I see. So, you know, that whole journey through school, did you do a 4-year degree? Did you get a master's? How did you roll? Did we
I,
leave?
I don't mean to put that stereotype on HBCUs, but we've been in there for 6, 8, 10 years. It took me 10 years. With my kids, I tell them not to. I recommend that they take a gap year or years. I think once you get in the workplace and you really get some unsavory supervisors, or you really get experience doing something you think you want to do, it sort of narrows the focus for you. So it took me 10 years to get my BSBA, and I got a cinema studies minor with it. But because I went back to school at the age of 30, I went nuts. I was getting, I graduated, and then I got my MA, MBA, and PhD all at once. That's what I was getting. I was involved in the MA program for comparative regional studies, MBA in international marketing, and I was going to Venezuela, and a PhD in economics.
Man.
However, being in that economics class, I knew once I was in econometrics, that's what it was. I knew that wasn't for me, and really part of the scholarship program I was in, they wouldn't let me do business. I wanted to do org behavior, which essentially is what I'm doing now with my consultancy. I take mindfulness, meditation, just holistic wellness, and I'm, doing team synergistics and behavior change, just human development within corporations. So I still ended up there, but I didn't go through the, sort of the pedagogical context of the university framework.
I see. So you're using all of these different modalities in your entrepreneurial life to create, and a big part, I think, of what you do is social change. You're really looking to have
No,
people...
but I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I thought it was a pause. Go, please finish the question.
Yeah. So, and I could be totally wrong, but, when I see the part of social change, to me, it really starts with that wellness piece. Because if people don't feel like doing something, they generally will not do it. But you have like some specificity.
Specificity, I know. See, it's one of those words. You heard me get tripped up a second ago.
Specific. Right. Right. On, things people don't really talk about, like apathy, right? So getting out of that area of thinking into actually wanting and being motivated and having some vigor around life. So, what would you say is like the largest component of what you do? Is it the yogi work? Is it social impact, homesteading?
No, that's a great question, and sort of commentary mixed in there. I think I just try to show up and be present. I think we all have our own superpowers, and they're called on depending on what the moment requires. 2016, when Trump got elected, that was a very different moment in our country and in the world. Now coming to 2024, very different moment in the world. So I think just preparedness. I love this saying, it's better to be a warrior in a garden as opposed to a gardener in a war. So just being, prepared. The ancient samurai soldiers used to have to be artisans and warriors. So, there's a side that, in doing permaculture, like today was pretty sad because we sold our chickens and our ducks to be culled, basically, because they were laying hens, they stopped producing, and basically they just were a very expensive pet to have. And they're just slowly getting plucked off by the eagles in the area, the owls, and an occasional weasel. So it's sad though, because their presence, right, is very communal. They help us. They get rid of all the bugs in the garden. We practice permaculture, and just overall, they're part of our extended family. It's one of the reasons I'm vegetarian, because I started to really develop a relationship with my livestock, and I realized, like, hey, they got little souls and lives too. So it's just, being connected, feeling connected with my heart, with things. And it doesn't mean that I don't have the ability to break that chicken's neck and eat it if I'm hungry. During COVID, when things sort of went awry and you could hear all the neighbors on the farms shooting every day, like all you heard was rifle fire. And I was like, wow, people are really getting prepared for some sort of war I know nothing about. And then I realized that I have full of resources with a greenhouse, a windmill, solar power, and all this livestock. We had goats, turkeys, chickens, ducks, rabbits, even large fish in the pond, all of this, and we would buy a lake. And I said, so I guess, something bad is going to pop off. And I don't know. It was just very interesting. But I think we want to be prepared to survive. And I'm not like a end of the world kind of person, but you just want to, for me, I want to be able to support my family in whatever way.
I understand that. In fact, I have Native American heritage of the Cherokee Nation.
All right.
Yeah. And I remember growing up and, we were the first Black family in a white neighborhood in Wilmington, Delaware. And my mother had skills in the garden. And believe me, she made sure that we not just survived, but thrived.
Exactly.
My dad got diabetes early. At 50, he fell out on the dining room floor. And I was 9 and our diets changed. Everything was measured out. It was a solid plate. We didn't even know McDonald's Kool-Aid or any of that.
God bless your mother for that.
Really, I do bless her for that. I'm so thankful because it starts there. And so what you're doing is so keen to having best life, being the best version of self. It starts.
Yeah, I think so, and that's what your question was originally, right? Like impacting people. I think the way we impact is we just model. Like you don't get on the platform and like pontificate, like and point fingers. We just model it, and what I try to do is say, "Oh, this has worked for me. Here's an example. If you want to try it." But I certainly am not out here trying to convince people to do yoga. Yoga's hard, and it's very revealing. Really, that mat is a mirror. It's all about you. Pointing that one finger out, you see 3 fingers pointing back at you, and it becomes very overwhelming when you realize you were the person always in the way. I've done landmark form twice, and it's a very interesting modality, a very interesting framework. I say it blends sort of Buddhism, Scientology, Christianity, some good parts, and psychoanalysis all in one. But the thing it did for me the most is it helped me be aware that I have blind spots. And the one question in landmark it sort of pulls out of you is that how do you know what you don't know? You can't know what you don't know because the very nature of it is you don't know. So these blind spots that we have, yoga reveals that through what they call burning off karma. It's really just self-revelation. You can't have self-realization until you have self-revelation. So as you become aware that there really wasn't racism, it really wasn't the powers that be, it really wasn't all these things, it really was you and your choices to make within that. Now, I want to be careful, I'm not trying to come off like Kanye West and say that slavery was a choice kind of thing. It's not, I don't want that to be taken out of context. I mean, just within the framework of our externalities and our stress and the chaos around us, we have choices that will lead to a different future. And how can we be aware of what that future is until we really know ourselves and who we are?
That is so perfectly said. Thank you for that. So let me ask you, with our audience, generally 18 to 24-year-olds, but let's say we take somebody who's just like maybe a sophomore in high school. Would you have some like advice for them or suggestion or recommendation for them on how they could dovetail into, where you are with holistic wellness?
Yeah, I love that reframing too, because I don't like the word advice, adding a little angel or a little devil to the shoulder. I do prefer to make a suggestion because again, I have 7 children. They range in age from 24 down to a toddler that's 2.5. The other ages are 15, 13, 12, 10, 8. So they're all in there. And, when my wife met me, I had just one daughter. We have one daughter outside of our marriage. We have 6. And her bonus daughter is the old one that's 24. And she said, Changa, you talk to your child as if she's an adult. And because in my mind, I took that stewardship that the Bible talks about literally. I said, so she is a young human being, a young person. So I always used, GRE words when she was like 8 or 5 or 6. So for anybody that's in the 10th grade, I'd say it the same way I would say it to anybody that's older. I work with United Negro College Fund STEM scholars. I've been working with them for 4 years, and so I'm often with youth and the whole stratosphere of youth. So I also work in the youth prisons, and one thing that I find is similar is that young folks are just curious about life, one, and then they have this pressure from Western culture to do something. And so my suggestion would be to do nothing, to sit with yourself and learn yourself, learn what really makes your heart pump. And it's that simple, like being aware, like when a certain person you're infatuated with walks in the room, your heart starts to beat faster. You get, bubbles or butterflies in your stomach. But what in life does that? Do you look at a particular tree and get that same sort of response, or similar? Maybe it's not as pronounced. Do you hear a certain noise like a train? Like maybe you really love the train. Like how will you know? So one way you know is the way your autonomic senses react. Same way you get those butterflies. So it could be as simple as that. That's what mindfulness teaches, just to really tap in and start to be aware of your body. If you get bloated every time you're around someone, probably not. You probably don't like that person. You might not be aware of it.
They give me indigestion.
Yeah, exactly. Like that term, "you make me sick," is a real thing. But our ancestors didn't have as much distraction, and we were sort of tapped in and could know that about ourselves.
That's perfect. That's such an organic way to find your next step, is just to do nothing.
That's what meditation is. Do nothing. Meditation actually descends on you. The awareness of nothingness descends on you. At first, it's very challenging, but at first, it's really challenging because you become aware of all your thoughts. You're like, oh my God, there's songs singing in my head. There's rappers rapping in my head. There's people walking around like, why am I thinking about him? Why am I thinking about her? Like all this stuff. But the more you do nothing, the more things get revealed to you. It's kind of like what Jesus was saying, getting a camel through the eye of a needle. I'm hyper-focused as you do nothing. So doing nothing 5 to 10 times a day on purpose with intention, like, oh, I'm gonna sit and do nothing. Turn off my phone, turn off the computer, and I'm just gonna sit here. And you may fall asleep because that's what your body needs, but after a while you start to realize there's something in the negative space.
Wow. So with the 7 children, age ranging in the pocket of preteen on up, about that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, 24 down to a toddler.
To 2.5, right.
Yeah.
Are you, if I may ask, are you choosing to homeschool? Do you feel like that's the best plan?
Well, I think that toddler broke my wife's back. She was the homeschooler. So we just enrolled the 3 middle ones in school. Right now we only have 2 homeschooled. My son, who's 14, he'll go to high school. We only wanted to homeschool him up until high school. And again, I was a product of the private school system. I think I appreciated that, but without the religiosity of it, because I went to Catholic school and then a Christian brother school. Definitely taught me critical thinking and definitely a very open learning environment. But sometimes the religion, had me being existential at 8 years old. I'm saying the rosary because I'm thinking I'm going to hell. We get paddled, we get disciplined with paddles by little nuns. It wasn't ideal. So I didn't want to necessarily offer them that, but I didn't want to get the juxtaposed with the public school system, where I feel like working in there that you really taught to not learn how to think, but how to obey. And so my decision to homeschool was basically put out of that. And, and I'm not a Pan-Africanist, but I also didn't like the lack of diverse learning. I think English itself is a framework. We get stuck in this rut because the curse, if you will, is within a framework of language. For example, like Ubuntu doesn't exist in our framework of English. And it takes like a sentence or two to describe one word. And that's our natural word. That's how we naturally are, feeling sort of the background of my ancestry anyway. And I just wanted to give them something more powerful about themselves than to go and learn about Christopher Columbus or, things of that nature. But unfortunately, or fortunately, they're in school now.
Right.
And we'll see what that does. We're willing to take them out, but definitely my wife as a lead educator, she deserved that break and needs that break, and that's where we are.
Yeah, I'd love to hear how that all pans out for you.
Me too.
It's on its way. It's being
shall
developed
see.
now as we speak. Right.
Yes.
You said something interesting earlier about having conversations with younger people and using language like you were talking to me or anyone else. And
Yeah.
you used the term, I think it was GRE.
Yeah.
What does that stand for?
I don't know. Some
Oh,
graduate requisite exam, I think. I can't remember
okay.
what it was. It was.
I thought it was
I don't. No,
little
it's.
bit.
I didn't mean. I'm sorry. I didn't even think about that. I can't remember the exact acronym, but it's what you take when you get your undergrad degree to your graduate degree. I
Okay.
remember studying for my MA and MBA. You had to learn all these words, just like SAT tests.
Mhm.
So in the morning, as I drove from Baltimore to DC, because I would commute every day, and my then girlfriend, who's now my wife, we'd read the Bible, and then I just have her read through a book this thick of all these words. A lot of those words stuck with me, but I think you ask a young person to rise to your level, not to go to the level of youth. When I worked with my young people, in a prison population or before they go to prison, a lot of times the people will pull me up and say, hey man, you're using language that's too big for these folks. Like, you got to dumb it down. And I was like, that's interesting that you think that they're dumb. Like, they're highly intelligent. And just like you did, if they don't know a word, they'll ask. And I didn't want to be condescending and say, hey, everybody here knows what pontificate means, right? Like, no, that's not what you do. Use it in context, and then you learn. So it's just the way that I choose to sort of train, youth up, because I believe in them, and I know they're super smart. They're way smarter than we are at this point. They just have to have the experience of life to sort of to mold it into a more usable, way of living. So, I just try to treat them with respect. They are little younger humans, not little, they're younger humans.
Yeah, you got me thinking about how we got onto this Zoom today. And, even with all your background in media, you and I are like jiggling with controls. But the youth, it's almost like they mind bend what they want.
Yeah. Well, they were born into it. You and I, we had rotary phones, and
Yeah, we did.
excuse me, someone's beeping in, let me click over type of stuff.
Yeah,
Star
right.
69. It was really a lot.
9411.
And it was a lot. And, being Gen X, that's the thing that's trending on TikTok right now. It's these angry Gen Xers, because we were, not only did we have the war on drugs put on us, we were latchkey kids, and we were sort of the lost, what is that? Lord of the Flies. We were like that. We were like Lord of the Flies. We were just out there. And it was very traumatic. And so I think a lot of us want to heal, the millennials and the Gen Zers behind us. And we tend to be helicopter parents, or like over caring. But, it was a lot for me to have a gun pulled on me at 15. It was a lot for me at 15 to see my first person get shot and have them laying out, bleeding out in front of me. It was a lot for me to be harassed by the police when I was this little Catholic private school boy that I thought, like, can't you see my intelligence? Can't you see I'm not out here being a troublemaker? And no, mostly they could just see my skin, which is why I say it's interesting that now Texas governor just made it legal. So starting in March, any law officer in Texas can arrest someone that they feel is an illegal immigrant. So basically just, put a stamp of approval on racial profiling, and you are guilty until proven innocent. So that's just, what does that require from us now as citizens? Even though I live in Maryland, it sets a precedent. And, that's sort of, we've always been, at least my experience as an African-American male, I've always been profiled racially. And, we don't like, I think it was Dr. King that said, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. So if we let it sort of breathe and take root in Texas and be like, oh, it doesn't matter, it's not me, well, it'll be us at some point. So just that awareness, and how can I model and live now to just sort of support learning and evolving out of that kind of space, because I have no real direct control over that.
Right, right. And you talked about King, and it just came to me, he says any time is the right time to do the right thing,
Yes.
and
I
that's,
wish we had a James Baldwin of our time. Boy, we need
oh,
that right
they're here. They're here.
now.
We
Yeah.
just haven't met them yet.
True. They probably have a social media page and they're looking for followers.
I think so. I think so. Or, crammed up in some school and telling them they need to be a math teacher.
Yeah.
You never know. So, we're almost at the end of our time, but I'd love to hear like what the pros and the cons are of your work. I know it's such a wide question, but I want to give people an idea of, what to look out for and
No,
what to love.
I love that question. It is the question. It's the most important because especially now, because I think we promote lifestyle brands so much. Like, I guess it started with Paris Hilton, went to Kim Kardashian, this sort of lifestyle brand. But the blessing is also the curse. This is why Jesus had to bear that cross on his own. So with a lifestyle brand or being an entrepreneur, you sort of never turn off. Everything, at least for me, if I'm doing something for myself, like I get a great retreat and I'm getting a massage, my eyes are open, like, I got to do this for, whatever population that is that I'm serving at that time. So I'm like, oh, I want disadvantaged youth to do this. And how can I get them in? And, it just sort of never turns off. So the suggestion would be to just play harder than you work and really get the discipline to learn how to shut it off and realize that, because even that wanting to help people is still a function of ego. It's still a modality of doing for yourself. And, we can't do it for everyone. This is why God made us many and diverse. So someone else will pick up that slack when it's your turn to go skating. Like that alarm just went off. That's my alarm to go roller skating. I'm intentional right now. I have a little old man roller skate that I do in the afternoon, and I'm
Are you saying
going
rollerblade or do you have four wheels?
no, I'm going to the skating rink and I'm going to get my ATL Baltimore roller skating moves on
Nice,
as best
roll
I can.
bounce.
Yeah, roll bounce. So being intentional about that playing, because I'm working, all the time, and I'm just going to choose this time for me to go and be free and fall a couple times and relearn what I never really mastered, but I'll master it this time.
Please get back up. You can't stay down. Get some
No.
pom-poms, do the whole thing, lights, cross.
Did you say pom-poms?
I said it.
I can see that vision of me with pom-poms on some skates, and that's funny.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a skating queen. I'm the one in the middle of the skate rink.
Right.
Trying to get off to the side to hold on. That's me.
See, that was my brother. He was a part of the Charm City Rockers, a skate crew, and
Wow.
he could skate. I mean, all the tricks, flips, backwards, had the skates with the jump bar in the middle. So I never got to that level, but I'm not going to do that now. I'm a little too old for it, but I'm going to do my version of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to get there.
I'd pay money.
And look, and that's part of that thing too about relaxing. I don't know about others. I think a lot of us in Western culture do that, making everything a thing. Like, I'm just skating. I got some mid-level skates. I'm just skating for the freedom and expression of it. Now I want to start this old man rink, just becoming the king of the rink. I don't want to do that. Like, no, I just want to skate. So that's another part of that. Don't make everything a thing. Like, we started that with gardening, and then we got into permaculture and companion planting. It became a thing. It was more work. And so just really be aware. That's that self-awareness of what's your purpose, what's your real mission, and live from that mission every day intentionally.
Perfect. That's a great place to wrap up. But I wish I had more time with you because I got so many areas of interest, that we could tap into. But I'm hopefully, wanting to have you back if you accept. So we'll just.
Oh, of course, anytime.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. That's good. I'd like to hear what the next thing is. Please tell our audience how to find you.
So I think the best way is that I'm at Changa Bell for everything. All social media platforms like TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. I try to make it simple. I'm easy to find. And then on all of those platforms, IG, I have a link to my link tree because I'm not as multifaceted as it seems. It's all coming from one wellspring. It's just those sort of so it's like a tree and they have branches. So I have 3 big main branches. So they're there and just here to help and support, especially with sort of young adults. So at Changa Bell on all social media platforms.
That's so easy. Last big question. I don't want to leave this out. Why are platforms like this, like Functional Training Zone, important?
I think we talked about it this whole time. Just even to have people like you and I talking and sharing about our journeys, not wagging the finger saying, you need to do this, and helping sort of young adults and young people get self-sovereignty. I believe Functional Training Zones calls it self-sufficiency. And then offering support. I think that the devil says, how can I help you? But God says, let me help you. And so we're not saying, how can I help you so we can sort of use it against you? We're saying, let me help you. Here's an avenue. Here's some light that I can shine on the pathway. So I think this is why Functional Training Zones and sites like mine, changabell.com, are really trying to help the best way we can and just be a pillar of support and nothing else.
That's beautiful. And, and our role is really to bring awareness and exposure to options, and let people choose. So that's where we are today. I really want to thank you for coming on. And, hopefully we'll see you soon in the 2024.
Hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for the opportunity. You've been a blessing since I met you, so I'll come back anytime.
All right. Thanks so much. And hey, everybody, you know how to find Changa Bell, changabell.com.
Exactly.
All right.
Now I'm going to go skate.
Now he's going to go skate. We're going to skate off here. Thanks so much. Take care, everyone. Peace.
Valuable commodity I know of is information. Wouldn't you agree?
It's your boy JR dropping them beats.